Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Business and Technology of Greater New York. I'm your host, Eric Beckman. Joining us tonight is Yvette Pasqua, the Chief Technology Officer of Meetup.com. We're very lucky to have her here tonight. Yvette, I'd like you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to the organizers for organizing these events every 2 months. I know better than anyone that it's hard but really rewarding to be an organizer, so really want to thank you for doing it day in and day out. I've been at Meetup about 9 months now. In my career, I've worked at startups, I've worked at big agencies, I've worked at technology product companies, and I have tried to learn as much as I can along the way. Never been happier than working with the crew at Meetup. So yeah, I think that's what I'm about.
Great, thank you for being here. Now, speaking of Meetup.com, and we know that this meetup in particular probably wouldn't even exist if it weren't for your platform. But as far as the organization is concerned, which do you feel is more important, the mission, the core values, or the vision? Great
question. I've never worked for a truly mission-led organization before, and that's what Meetup is. Our founders founded Meetup in the wake of 9/11 to bring people together in their community and have a positive impact on lives, have a positive impact on their local community. And that's really our mission, right? We're striving to get a meetup everywhere about most everything. We call that MEME, M-E-M-E, and that's our number one goal. That's our number one mission. But we also just this past year, actually, we've written down, and by written down, I guess pixeled down our values, our values are important in the sense that they help us make decisions to reach our mission, but they're not the most important thing for us. Our mission is, and every week we get together in our Meet Update, and almost every week I get a little teary about the effect we're having on people's lives, and it inspires me to keep going for that mission.
That's great, wonderful. Now, you mentioned that you assumed this leadership position approximately 9 months ago.
Yeah.
That's great. In those 9 months, have you come to realize any kind of resources that you'd recommend someone who's going to be assuming a leadership role or looking to gain insight into leadership?
Yeah. So I've I've been going to a lot of meetups, right? So not to push that at all, but there's a CTO School meetup. There are meetups like this. There's a ton of meetups in New York where you can listen to fireside chats, Q&As, architecture discussions, topics about how to manage engineers. And honestly, I love reading, but I love listening more and asking questions and meeting people even more. I learn more that way. When I started, after about a few months of listening to my team a lot, I had an idea of what I wanted to do, and I started reaching out to CTOs and VP engineering type folks to come in, and I probably brought about 25-ish of those folks in to do internal Q&A meetups at Meetup HQ in New York. With specific topics for challenges that I felt like the team was facing, things that I felt like we can learn, ranging from how to automate our QA process to how to build microservices to how to manage engineering teams, and that was probably by far the most awesome resource for us. Just learning from so many different perspectives. We videotaped them all. They're all on our private YouTube. They were very open, so we had topics, but everyone from the team could attend, could all ask questions. We learned a ton, and just today in our big architecture weekly meeting, we brought up, that thing that everyone told us was going to be hard in building a service-oriented architecture. We've been actually building it, and it was hard, right? And we could validate it. So just talking with as many people as we can.
That's great. Now, let's say that I'm somebody who's just recently been thrust into a leadership position. What's the number one piece of advice that you would give me or someone who's in that position?
Listen. In my first 4-ish weeks, I sat down and had one-on-ones or small group meetings with I stopped counting at 76. That's the slide I put up when people ask me what my onboarding was like at Meetup. I was born in 1976, so I love that number, and started counting my one-on-ones, and I got to 76 and figured that was enough, right? But I was in one-on-ones all day long, asking every engineer, as many cross-department folks as I could get. What's Meetup doing really well? What do you love doing here? What do you want to do more of? How could we do things better? Taking notes along the way, listening a lot. And something that Scott, my boss, the CEO and founder of Meetup, is great at and really helped remind me and pushed me to do was not only listen but ask why. So when you hear information, really try to get at the root of the issue and keep asking why and peel back those layers, right? Peel back those layers and really get at the heart of like why that's happening. I use a pretty light framework of people, process, and tools in solving things and really listening and getting at the why. I was able to come up with a 90, 3-month, 6-month, 12-month plan that of course changes every month. But if I hadn't listened and asked those why questions so much, I don't think I would have really understood how to help Meetup the best.
Now, a lot of companies, of course, well, all companies have to focus on their core demographic, that is their target audience. But surely you've worked with software vendors in building this platform. What about vendor relations? Like, is there anything special that goes into that?
Well, I first off, so I've been on the vendor side a good amount and hate the word vendor, to be honest. I really look at it as working with vendors as a partner or even as a client and cutting through the BS as quickly as possible, being really straightforward with what I need, being really honest with what I need, not playing the whole salesmanship game, and really just cutting to the chase and having lunch with your partners and getting to know them and understanding their company's strengths and weaknesses and being honest about your own. I don't really have time to waste by hoping that they figure out how to help me solve my problems. So I try to be as upfront and straightforward as possible in telling them exactly how to help me the best and really understanding from them how exactly they can help me the best. So, I'm sure many people in this room have been on the client service side and the client side, and once you're on the client side, my advice is to treat your vendors, I hate the V word, but treat them, like you're on the client service side as well, and like really build that relationship and figure out how they can, in a pointed, strategic way, help you the best, because you're gonna want to use partners for all different things. You're gonna want to, similar to how I think it's best to architect your software and systems, you want to use the exact right tool for the job. You want to use sharp, pointed tools and technologies and frameworks that probably do one or two or a few things really, really well. I think the same way about your partners and your partner relationships. You want to use them strategically very well for what they're best at, and build your team around that. And
conversely, with regard to customers, how I mean, your role is pretty far abstracted from your customer base, I would assume. And I mean, how important do you think it is for you or your team to interact with the customers?
Very, very important. I go to meetups all the time. I'm at one right now, right? I go to at least a few meetups a week, most weeks. And if I can get someone's ear, this happened earlier today. I was harassing a lovely woman who's been a great meetup user and organizer for years, and asking her, you know, second she mentioned she used to organize a meetup, I was like a shark, right? And I was just like, well, what was the hardest thing about organizing a meetup? Why do you stop organizing your meetup, right? I think the in-person dialogue, the feedback that you can get from actual people and humans really augments the data that we have. We've got a lot of data over 14 years of you know, what's easy and hard to do, and what, you know, what the best parts of our product are, and what parts of the product we need to work on the most. But augmenting that with real live in-person conversation and understanding, and I think it's really important. So for folks who don't know, you know, we obviously, we're a subscription business, and we make our money off of our amazing organizers who pay a monthly subscription to organize meetups. And we bring in organizers once every 2 months at minimum. We have an organizer lunch. Everyone in the company attends. We have about anywhere from 2 to 4 different organizers or groups of organizers in. Scott, our CEO, interviews them, and it's really a way to make sure we're always reconnecting with our customers and understanding how are they using our platform. You know, we ask for feedback right there in front of 160 people. You know, how could we be doing things better? That's just one way that we get that in-person feedback. But everyone on my team goes to meetups all the time, and we're pretty fanatical about understanding. You know, everyone on the team is also an organizer of a meetup, right? So we use our own product a lot, and we're organizing meetups, and we're having people come to meetups, and we're seeing what's working, what's not working, and we're talking with people there too. When you're in the business of connecting humans and helping build relationships and communities, the data's awesome, and we're always trying to make our product's data better. For us to make business decisions. But when you're in the business of human interaction, it's so important for us to get out there and get that feedback too.
Cool. Now on to people who have been to this meetup before will recognize this as one of our favorite pet questions.
Uh-oh.
I mean, you've spent a lot of time in the industry, obviously, to get to where you are, and we're always curious to ask industry leaders their perspective on why you feel that IT and infrastructure investment is still viewed as a cost center by the business.
So that's a tough question for me. I've been on both sides of it. Right before I worked at Meetup, I worked for a B2B software company that was providing content monetization platforms and solutions, software as a service solutions for mostly media publishing companies. So I've been on the side of, you know, there's probably no bigger cost center movement than media and publishing, trying to drive down IT costs and help their profits and margins. But that's a tough question for me because you know, in the last 5, 7, 8 years, New York's seen such a renaissance in the technology industry. And I think there's a really big divide right now between the old school New York industries of finance, media, publishing, entertainment, you know, big law firms, big firms, and how they view technology as a cost center. And then the newer technology industry of the, you know, the Silicon Alley type thing, the real technology companies, and how they view technology as an enabler and as the primary way that they are going to be successful as a company. So my best advice is a little bit controversial, I would say, but I'm going to say it anyway, which is like, if you're at a company or in an industry or an environment where every day is a cost center fight, every day you're fighting cost first, get out. Like, there's better, you know, honestly, there's better, you know, there's better places to be, right? You know, there's so many jobs out there at tech companies in New York now and you know, across the world, where you don't have to answer those questions every day anymore. It's, you know, it's been pretty awesome. And you know, just last year I saw the other side of things and saw how bad it got. The media company I was, my B2B company was selling our software to, I worked on site there for a really long time. And they essentially were laying off their entire technology force, outsourcing it, and moving out of their offices and closing up a pretty big part of their shop. But you know, my advice, honestly, is get out of there. You know, those folks are going to lose. They're already losing. Their profits are shrinking. They're reacting, I think, in a very reactive way. Towards the power of technology, right? Instead of trying to leverage technology to rebuild their businesses and rebuild their empires, they're trying to leverage cost savings to help their short-term bottom lines as much as possible. And you know, if you want to do your best work, which you probably do, why would you come out on a Thursday night and waste your time if you didn't want to learn something, right? But if you want to do your best work, find a company, find an industry, find an environment where you can do your best work. And your best work isn't answering P&L questions all day long. You know, your best work is making things. And there's plenty of places now in New York, and I feel like I've certainly found one where you're free to do your best work. So it's my advice is a little bit of off the beaten path, I think.
Oh, it's wonderful. And I mean, it seems to me as though there's still room in that equation to have to engage the non-technical managers, the non-technical aspects of the C-suite. How do you engage with them and communicate the value add of infrastructure and IT investment?
Yep. I mean, you always have to be doing it. I feel really fortunate that I worked at agencies for 10 years. So I worked at big global agencies. We were almost always hired by the CMO or VP of marketing. So typically our clients knew very little about technology, and it was always my job to sell them a really big budget line item. And I think you always have to be showing the value you're adding to the organization. So think of what your CEO, think of what every department, everyone at the company, think of their biggest business problems, and think of the KPIs with which they're measured against. You know, whether it's KPIs, OKRs, whatever acronym your company uses to measure folks, everyone has them. And figure out, like, how is technology helping those things? Because you know what, it probably is. You know, there's probably not an area of a business where your technology isn't helping someone be more productive, you know, hit their goals, hit their numbers. Or there probably isn't an area, if it's not doing it now, if given more resources or the ability to go do that, you couldn't help those things. You know, I'm very fortunate in that at Meetup, our leadership team is a technology-first team and very supportive, but I still present more than anything else, right? I still present to my team, I still present to our leadership team, I still present to our board, and really identifying, you know, from the, you know, the employee at the ground level, at the day-to-day level, what are their biggest problems? What are their biggest issues that they're facing? How can you, with software, with technology, with new tools, how can you help them more, and how are you helping them more? Quantify that, right? We have a goal. We have many, many quantified goals right now, but just simple things like we're talking to our product team, and of course they want us to ship faster, right? So we've been measuring how long something sits in QA. We've got 2 different pipelines. We've got an automated continuous integration pipeline, which is our future, but we still have some of our older legacy software running on a non-automated pipeline that's all manual, right? But even that manual pipeline, we want to ship that faster, right? So we presented just 3 or 4 minutes in front of the whole company the other day. Our automated pipeline, we ship things in 5 minutes from merging code, right? From pull request merge, right? 5 minutes, which is probably going to become 30 as more code becomes automated, but 5 minutes right now. Our non-automated pipeline, which we're not investing in anymore, all the money is going to the automated one, right? Takes 5 days. When a pull request is merged and we've got to do manual QA and manual release management and no continuous deployment, 5 days. So what are we doing? Well, we're going from 5 days to 5 minutes. That's a really, really, really big number to show 160 folks, 100 of whom aren't in the engineering group. And by the way, we're also working on getting 5 days to 4 days, right? So showing big progress there. And as much as possible, not using, so a lot of the words I just used to describe that, we didn't put in our presentation. We didn't talk about continuous deployment. We didn't use technology words, technology buzzwords, acronyms, things like that. But really understanding, what does our customer service team want from us? What does our product design team, our product management team want from us? And coming in somewhat like a consultant, maybe like an outside consultant, figuring out what their biggest business problems are and really communicating those things in a very, very easy to understand way. So I'm constantly thinking of ways to do that.
Now, what about forward-looking we're in July of 2016, so for the rest of this year, and maybe if it's possible to look into 2017, what would you say are your top 3 priorities from perspective of technology and IT and infrastructure?
Yep. So our number one thing, Meetup used to be a desktop-first company, right? Everyone's probably RSVP'd to meetups, join meetup groups from your computer, from your desktop computer. The last couple of years, we've made a huge push to be a mobile-first company, and that will culminate this fall. We're relaunching brand new, redesigned, rewritten, rebranded Meetup apps, so native iOS and Android apps. So a lot of the company is working really, really hard towards that. So that's the first thing, and if there's time, I'm going to give you guys a sneak preview of the alpha that's on my phone. I can't promise it won't crash because it's an alpha, but it probably won't. I haven't been able to replicate it crashing except for one use case, which I'm not going to show you today. So that's number one. Number 2, we are replatforming Meetup, and by replatforming, we're really looking at the whole of Meetup's platform. We're replatforming our back-end core services. We're breaking up Meetup's monolith into service-oriented architecture. We already prototyped our first service this year, and we're going to be launching our first service to production in a completely new Google Cloud production environment by the end of this year. And the third thing is we'll be working on rebuilding and launching our new web platform, so our front-end full-stack web platform as well. Right now we have a separate mobile and desktop site. That makes us sad. We're using React and Node and all the buzzwords of isomorphic JavaScript and all that fun stuff. to rebuild a responsive site, but more importantly, really modernize and update the framework that we use to build our web product. It's really going to allow us to ship much, much faster than we are right now. So we're really excited about that. We just had a hackathon last week, 2-day hackathon. We do that 3 or 4 times a year. And our web team, in my opinion, it was the best hackathon idea of all time. They all sat in a room and they were like, all right, we're going to use our new framework that we've been building since January. There's been a team of about 4 engineers building it. We're going to finally use this new thing and we're going to rebuild all of Meetup in 2 days using our new framework, right? The design won't be perfect, but we're going to try to build every single page with every single piece of functionality. They got really close. They got really close and they demoed it and it was pretty awesome. But so we're going to start to launch new web product later this year as well, and hope to get a lot of the redesign and rebranding that we're doing in there too.
It's terrific.
Third thing, I guess you asked me for 3. Third thing is honestly just growing the team to do all of this stuff. So spending a lot of time and money on replatforming, new apps, new web. That's going to take a lot of engineering muscle. So we've been growing our team by about 25–30% this year. So I've been spending a lot of my time, and all my managers have been spending a lot of their time hiring. Spread the word. You know, we're looking across all the areas that you just heard about. And I love recruiting. I love hiring folks, and I've just personally been spending a lot of my time doing that too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening. With that, I'd just like to open it up for a couple of questions from the audience. Are there any problems that you've noticed specifically when coding apps for social media?
I wouldn't say coding. There are some really unique problems that we face as Meetup and companies like Meetup and companies like Grindr. One of them is in the machine learning area. So we're trying to make Meetup as machine learning driven, right? As personal as possible, and turning not only our recommendation engine, but we're internally we call it self-driving meetups, right? So we want to create meetups that are self-driving in the future, so that organizers and members don't have to worry about when is the meetup going to happen, where is it going to happen, what meetup should I join. It's just so easy. It's a few taps and you're there. But one unique problem that we face is our in order to train that data and in order to find relevant data, not only does it have to match the user, the customer's interests, but if you think about it, we're a geographically distributed product. So in New York, it's quite easy, right? We have about 1 million or 2 million users in New York with a lot of meetups. But if you're in, if you're in Kansas, there's very little data to work with there. So we face some much bigger challenges in the machine learning area of, how do we find the right data for these customers, for these users, when there's very little data that's geographically relevant to them. And I think that's unique to our platform or other geolocation-based, geo-based platforms. That's pretty hard. I would say another difficult thing to think about is how best to design the product around member-to-member communications versus company-to-member communications, and how best to design your software and systems around being able to do those things really well. When you get an email that's from Facebook or Meetup, you're probably less excited, right? That tingly "I'm important" feeling, that FOMO, right? FOMO is the cool thing they say now. Feeling doesn't happen as much as if you get a message from your good friend across the country in California, or if you get that message from the Meetup organizer whose Meetup you've been going to for many years. So it's important to us to create scalable systems, and also just the product, right? The actual product that allows for great member-to-member communications, and that's something we're really focused on over the next year from our perspective at Meetup. Really to build better product and build better systems that can handle those member-to-member communications a lot better. Those are a couple of things.
Thanks. Yeah. So do you see any friction on the team when transitioning from manual QA to automated QA?
That's a great question. That's an awesome question. And the answer is yes, but it's, I think it's healthy friction, right? We've been hiring software engineers and test who have a lot of experience building automated testing frameworks and building automated testing software. And some of our QA engineers on the team now have some experience with that, but some of them don't, right? But maybe it's cultural at Meetup, or maybe it's just the thing to do now. But there's a little bit of fear, but the fear really coming from the team is, how can I learn as much as I can, as fast as I can? And how is my CTO, how is my manager, how is my director going to help me do that? Because what's ubiquitous within the team is that they realize the power of automating a lot of the tasks that they do over and over again by hand all day long, and no one wants to do those things over and over again, right? So the real challenge there is harnessing that desire to learn and excitement to learn, along with kind of the fear of the unknown, and providing the right mentoring and training for that team to turn into a hybrid team, right? There's going to be some folks on that team who are just going to write software, frankly, because they're engineers at heart, and that's all they do and that's all they've done. There's going to be some folks who do both, though, right? We're going to be we still need humans to break our software once we've launched it, right? We're going to be doing a lot, how can we break this thing, right? That the automated tests don't catch. So there's still going to be a lot of that, and there's still going to be a lot of test planning, right? So when we're developing product and new features and fixing bugs, also, having such a big role, all of those QA engineers, honestly turning much more into QA architects, right? So figuring out, what do we need to test? How are we going to test it? What are we going to write scripts for, right? What are we going to want to also manually test? What can we reuse, things that we've done before in the past, right? So actually, both our QA and systems team, I hired a director this past year who is overseeing that team together, and it's a great combination. Our QA team is moving into automation, and our infrastructure and systems are also moving into automation. They're also moving into the cloud. We have data centers now, right? And I hired a director of that team who wasn't necessarily a QA engineer, wasn't necessarily a systems engineer, but has been writing software full stack across systems to QA for the last 20 years, right? So really providing a senior mentor for that team, and having him help come up with the training plans around that. So yeah, you're right. It is a transition, and it's hard, and it's a shift. But it's the energy is good energy. We just have to funnel it in the right direction, I think.
I think we have time for one more question. Yes. So how do you manage internationalization with respect to
user experience?
User experience, yes.
Around culture.
Yep. That's a great question. So we actually have a head of international at Meetup, a woman who has been in that role for just over 2 years now. That's a newish role at Meetup. Before that, frankly, we didn't do a great job with internationalization, both technical and of the user experience. We did great in English-speaking countries and not so great in all of the others, right? And over the last 2 years, we've seen really explosive growth in those countries, and we've started to hire community managers in those countries who can really bring local insight, not only from the local community perspective. So for example, we hired someone pretty recently in Tokyo, Japan, but also from a user experience perspective, and to be someone who we can run new product features and internationalization of our product by. Part of it is just translating right. And we have local translators in all of our markets. We also have just started integrating a product called TransFX that will allow us to do that better, but also crowdsource some of the smaller markets where we frankly aren't a big enough company yet to have local folks in all of those markets. But having local people is really key to that. And having someone like our head of international who writes and evangelizes best practices for designing and developing interfaces that can be internationalized in a much easier way. All of our components that we're building, we now run through the internationalization screen as well. Our designers, developers, we have a library of different user-facing components, and if they don't pass our internationalization best practices and tests, they don't get launched. So it's been an evolution for us, but we think we're on a great track now to do it well.
Great. Thank you again. Now, as Yvette mentioned before, we do have a special treat for you where she'd like to show you the alpha version of the new piece of software.
So this is the new Meetup app. The colors are a little bit weird on this screen, but you'll see my shirt is no longer red and black, which was our old brand. You can see in the lower left, this is the new small version of the Meetup logo. We call that the swarm. The idea behind that is not only visually is it kind of an active motion, swarmy type thing, but it represents all of our Meetup groups, right? When people swarm together, they interact, they talk with one another. Folks really wanted to find meetups in a more spontaneous fashion, right? So this is member-centric. It's reminding me that I'm going to a meetup in 3 days. It's also showing me all of my upcoming meetups and when they're happening. I can scroll through all of those. There's a meetup right now at Meetup HQ. We have a barbecue every Thursday if anyone wants to come by, email me, right? It's open to the public. It's happening now. No one's added photos yet, but I could do that really quickly from our app. I can even, as an organizer, because I'm an organizer of our meetup, I can even schedule a meetup. I can edit this event on the fly from my mobile phone, and I can see all the upcoming meetups that are upcoming as well. We have a July meetup crawl coming up in the future. On the bottom, I can really quickly one-touch RSVP to a meetup, which is just a much easier user experience than we've had in the past. But what I love most about our new app is the discovery. We found that it's too hard now for members to discover meetups happening soon near them, right? Our search doesn't make it really easy to find that. So we have some different categories, and some are machine learning recommendation engine driven. We have a trending category, and this is showing meetups trending for me, my personal meetups based on things that I've searched, topics that I've added to my meetup groups. It knows that I go to a lot of tech meetups, surprise, surprise, and career and business meetups. It knows that I have a 3-year-old and I go to a lot of mom and family meetups as well. So it's showing me those meetups too. It's also showing me meetups that it thinks I'd like that are happening very soon, right, in the next couple of days. And then it's showing meetups that are nearest me that I might like as well if I wanted to go to a meetup near me soon. Another thing, we've rebranded and really redesigned everything for our app. So whereas before we had textual categories, right? You can click on tech or whatever. We're really trying to bring the different categories to life. These are ordered, by the way, in a way that's personalized for me. Again, it knows I go to a lot of tech meetups. All of these pictures are actual real pictures. We still have that giant brain hanging in our office. But if I clicked on tech, I can really dive in and explore these categories in a much more refined, easy to find way. And it's, again, these are all recommendations engine based on the meetups I've gone to, the things I've searched for. It knows I like a lot of machine learning and AI, and you can really dive into all the different tech meetups that you might want to go to.
When you say things that you search for, is that
Within the Meetup platform for now. We also, if you connect your Facebook account, we're not necessarily looking at what you search on Facebook, but we are looking at your friends on Facebook and trying to derive some information from Facebook as well. Not everyone's connected their account, but we do draw some data from Facebook as well. We've brought notifications front and center here. So this is our homepage. We're really trying to get out of the email business. I'm sure you guys, who here feels like they get too many emails from Meetup? Yeah, we're working on that, right? With our new apps, if you download our new apps, I actually get 0 emails from Meetup right now. I am 100% notification based. I only use our apps. I do use our mobile site and our site, but I only use our apps for notifications and telling me of things. I have gotten a lot of notifications in the last day, but I can see them when I want to see them, and they're always there for me to look at, and I get no more emails. So if you want no more emails, download our new apps is my sales pitch. You also see your own profile information a lot better. Something else I glossed over was our messaging. So you can member-to-member message, and we've rolled that out with notifications so that you can see kind of all the interactions and all the things you'd want to do with Meetup a lot easier. And you can start messages a lot easier too.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.